Calling Elk II from the Mastering the Art series by Primos is brought to you by Hayes Outdoors, makers of Mossy Oak Camouflage, America's most effective concealment system. And Companions, the only casual clothing natural enough to wear the Mossy Oak logo. PSE, the best archery equipment. Primos hunting calls and accessories for the woods.
I'm Will Primos. We're here to discuss calling bull elk using cow and bull sounds. With me is Pete Davis, Primos Pro Staffer from Arizona, and Jim Horn from Oregon.
Thanks, Will. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be in the high country with you today.
I agree with you.
To show our viewers what elk calling is really about, let's show a hunt from the Truth One video by Primos.
Well, stand up. Where'd you hit him?
Good job, good job.
Hey, buddy.
That's a real milk in one piece to haul back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
All right.
Flip him up there.
Huh? Hold him up, Wilbur. 6
On that side. 1, 2, 3, 5.
Oh, you're right.
5 by 6. Hey, that's a good bull, baby. That's a dandy.
Great shot, Will. Why is it when those bulls are coming in like that, they always have a tendency to stop behind a tree when you want to take their picture?
I don't know how many times with videoing critters they get behind something, but he stopped right where I want him, 18 yards right between those two trees. When I called to him, he stopped perfect. So I'll take an 18-yard shot any day.
Oh, man.
That's what we wanted. What we've been doing, we've been after that bull for about 2.5 hours. And we had set up on him 3 times, moving up the mountain closer to him each time. But he wouldn't commit to us. He was coming down the mountain in the afternoon. And the day before, we run off 2 bulls bugling at him. So we were a little reluctant to bugle at the bull. Different time during the season, they react different ways. And we just felt like they weren't quite ready to fight us yet. So nothing was happening. He wasn't coming. He was answering us. So I finally decided, what the heck, might as well try. So I waited till he bugled, and I mimicked him. I bugled back just like he did. And I mean, it was just immediate. He came straight on. And that's what you want to do. Be able to use cow and bull sounds at the right time to make those bulls come to you.
Yeah. Will, I noticed that you was tapping on your Terminator hose, imitating the clucking sound
Yeah,
from the
I
bull.
was trying to add that, to try and add more realism that there was a bull down there with the cow. So we'll talk about that a little later on. The first call we want to talk about is mouth calls or mouth reed calls. What we manufacture is the palate plate call. These calls are very unique, and then we added a plate to the top of the call. This plate sets the angle of the call in your mouth, which really helps you produce the right tones of elk calls. Also, the plate keeps the reed from overstretching. That way you don't ever overblow the call. And another benefit that we didn't know we were going to get from these palate plate calls is that for a lot of people who have the gag reflex, the plate seems to fit the roof of the mouth and take away that slide reflex that the call is going to slide down your throat, and it keeps them from gagging. But we manufacture the Century plate, this is the Ivory plate here, the Imperial plate, and the Hyper plate. And these calls are dynamite for really producing true elk sounds.
These palate plate calls have really changed the elk reed market. The patented design allows you to blow the call easier, and you can reproduce elk sounds, not just imitate them.
Yeah, and we are strong believers in that palate plate call. Now, we still manufacture the traditional reed, but I'm telling you right now that the palate plate is the only way to go.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it, Jim?
Yes, it does.
Learning to use a mouth call or reed call is really very simple. If you're using the palate plate call, the palate plate always goes up. If you're using a traditional style call, the short reed always goes down. The call goes in your mouth in this fashion. Now, I teach people to say the letter S. When you take your tongue and press it to the roof of your mouth, you're going to make that hissing sound. With the call in your mouth, the call is going to become the roof of your mouth, and when you press your tongue against this reed and blow the air, you're going to get a high-pitched sound like this. Now, positioning the call is also important. You don't want the call so far back that it's going to gag you, and you don't want it so far forward that it's going to touch your front teeth. You want it about in the middle of your mouth. I like to take it and put it on my tongue like a piece of candy and just let my tongue push it to the roof of my mouth. With the call in the middle of my mouth, my tongue is going to be laying in my mouth just like it normally would, so my tongue is probably going to be about that far past the reed. Now, put it in your mouth like this, press it to the roof of your mouth, and make that hissing noise, that S sound, and you're going to get a high-pitched squeal. If you didn't get that sound, you're going to need to keep fooling with the call, changing the positions in your mouth until the call gets a good seal and you get that high-pitched sound. Most people should get that sound right off the bat. If you don't get the sound, your mouth may be real high, arc in your mouth, your palate may be real high or maybe very narrow, and it may take a little bit of trimming on the call. But don't trim it until you let the call kind of form to your mouth and are sure that you're not getting a good fit. Then you can try to trim it. Now, after you learn to make that high sound, it's simply a matter of learning to go from a high to a low to get cow sounds. It's kind of like imagine you're trying to say EI or EO.
EI and EO is the basis of all cow talk.
That's right.
Let's start with a chirp. I'm going to do it on the ivory plate. This is my favorite call. The chirp's kind of a short sound, and the pitch is from high to low. Sounds like this.
That's great. And why are the cows doing that? What's going on?
They're staying in contact with each other.
Like they're moving through the timber?
Yeah, contact, call, everything's okay.
Letting each other know where they are?
Yep, just back and forth, keep in contact with each other.
Now, the ivory plate, you're most fond of using that call a lot. And Jim, you like the Imperial. The Imperial has 2 reeds in it, and the second reed has a big V-cut cut out of it, which adds a little bit of rasp on the end, but you can control that very easily by the way that reed is cut. Let's do a chirp on that, Jim.
Okay. Real easy call to use.
Easy call to use. And the mew is nothing but a longer chirp, a little bit more pleading. So I want to do a mew on the Century. Now, let's pull your call out right there. The only difference in the ivory and the Century is the height of the plate. Get a little bit different tone. Some people can use this call easier or can use that call easier because of the shape of their mouth.
Fits them better.
Yeah, and this call makes a great young bull bugle. We'll get into those bugles a little bit later, but a mew on the Century. You can drag it out, make it a little bit more pleading, but let's hear it on the ivory. Gosh, that's sweet. How about the Imperial? And a little bit different pitch from one of us to the other, but the thing that's so important is that it's got that elk tone.
It's there on all the
That's
calls.
what that palate plate gives you. Really makes a big difference.
You know, Will, one of the things that you were talking about on the different shapes of mouths, you were just talking about this plate can be adjusted, and when it is adjusted, you can change the pitch where it fits in people's mouths, so they can tune it to fit the roof of their
just
mouth.
move it just a little bit sometimes.
Yes.
Also, Will, each call can be used differently with volume and the inflection that you put into the call. It can change to a pleading sound.
Give me an example.
Like a human voice. You say something, come here, come here. There's a difference.
Or come here.
Yeah, the whole meaning of that is changed, and these calls can do that.
By the way you use the call, by more dragging that mew out a little bit and changing the inflection.
You bet.
Okay. The next sounds we want to talk about are estrus and hyper sounds. What would the estrus sound be, Pete?
Estrus sound is a call that, look at that, Dan Coyote. 2 of them right there.
Sure is.
There's 2 of them.
We're calling.
Yeah.
Break up our flow a little bit, but we're sitting here cow calling and doing the calls, and we've called up those 2 coyotes,
And they're not 35 yards.
That's pretty neat. They tried to
They
come
make
back
a circle and
around
come back up.
right there. But anyway, what would you say an estrus sound is?
An estrus sound is at that point of the year where the cow is ready to breed, and you're going to get a bull to come into
And
that
she's
call.
advertising that.
You bet, and it's now.
All right.
It's a pleading call, and it's right now, and then bulls are going to come in.
Now, another palate plate we make is what we call the hyper plate. And we made it with another reed design in it. Point that out there, Jim. Yeah. It's got 2 big slooping cuts and a slice in it, still allowing you to reach all the elk tones, but giving you the opportunity to make them even more pleading and give it a little bit more rasp for those estrus calls. Do an estrus call for us.
Yeah, it looks like an oil can.
Looks like an oil can, okay. The cut does. Yeah. All right, now, estrus call being longer and pleading. When we get into what we call the hyper calls, you're going waving up and down, even, and that's just more urgency.
The purpose for that is to create excitement. That bull is out there right now at that time of the year because he's chasing cows. That's his sole purpose for being out there, and that's what you're doing.
Now, Jim, last year you were hunting in Oregon, and you could see the bull coming, and you quit making that sound. And what happened?
He would stop. He would just flat stop. As soon as we stopped making our hyper sound, he would stop. Start on it again, and he would start
Were
coming.
you doing it loud?
Real loud.
All right, show us exactly what you were doing there.
That's the one sound they want to hear.
Were you
That's
able
what
to,
it's all about.
Were you able to take that bull?
No, it messed it up by moving.
Caught you moving.
Yeah.
Well, from all of these calls, from the Century to the Ivory to the Imperial to the Hyper Plate, they all have their purpose. You never know what day one's going to work better for you. More rasp comes from the Imperial and the Hyper Plates, but cows make all different types of sounds, and that's why we make them. And keep in mind that everybody's different. Each person is going to sound a little bit different on each individual call. Let's join Jeff Sherwood and David Carden. We were all in Colorado recently, and we recorded some cows. You're not going to see the cows, but you're going to hear a lot of different variety of sounds just to show you and let you hear the tonal quality. And while y'all are listening at that and watching this piece of footage, we're going to move over here where the sun has kind of gotten a little bit higher in the sky and warmed up. It was kind of cool today, and we're going to get over there at the base of the mountain, and we're going to talk more about using some different calls, the lead cow, the hyper lips, and the terminator for making more elk sounds. Those mountains are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
Gorgeous. Beautiful. There are many different types of calls that we make to make the cow sounds. And one of these is the lead cow. This is a closed reed or pinch style call. You actually pinch it with your teeth, and that gives you the high note. You pinch it and blow, and then as you let up, it gives you the low note. Now, we've got what we call a locator ring about halfway back on the trough here. And we did that because we'd be looking out there and we'd see an elk, and we wanted to be able to make a call without looking down, take our eyes off the animal. And you can feel that bump, and you know exactly which way it goes in your mouth. It goes straight up, and the first time you hit it, perfect. So you're not having it sideways in your mouth or something. But the pinch style call is very easy to use. Now on the lead cow, a chirp would sound like. You can do it soft or you can do it loud. Now mew would just be a little bit longer, a little more pleading.
Such an easy call to use.
Very, very easy call. It's foolproof. Very easy to use.
Well, I like the hyper call on it, and I like the estrus call on it.
Do an
You
estrus
get a
on
pretty
it.
good one.
Now that estrus call that he's doing right now, the important part about that whole call is the part that he draws out, that whiny sound at the end. That's the exciting part of
That raspy
That's sound
what's
at the
doing
end.
it.
But you don't want to cut it off too short.
Show it what
You're
time
getting more into an alarm.
if you would have cut it off too quick.
That's right.
That's an alarm.
Yeah, that's an alarm
sound. That's bad. You don't want to do that.
Nope, all you see is dust usually.
But you can also do the hyper sounds,
Sure.
which is just a more intense estrus call. Do the hyper sounds on the lead cow. And all you're doing is biting down at the beginning, getting the high pitch, and letting it up a little bit,
And then drawing out.
and drawing out, and biting back down, and going again. Yeah.
That
Very
sounds
easy.
good.
Very easy to do. All right. The lead cow, simple, great choice for people who don't want to use a mouth reed call, want to be guaranteed that they can pick it up and walk out of the store using it that minute. The next set of calls that we're going to talk about are the hyper lip calls. Now, I noticed when I told Jim the first time I told him this, I noticed that Jim grinned, hyper lips, that's what you going to call that call? But you use your lips to bite on this call. It's an open reed call, and you use your lips to bite down on the reed, to put pressure on the reed, to give you the high note and then let up a little bit. The rubber band can be adjusted for each person so that they can kind of set it where it makes it work best for them. And we make 2 models. We make the Hyperlip single and the Hyperlips double. The double being a little bit more raspier and a lot louder. You can blow it a lot louder because it's got 2 heavy reeds on it, so it's going to carry further. And I believe you called up a bull last year doing this, and it took a lot of volume to get that bull to come.
Right. The biggest bull we called last year coming in Arizona was on that call.
And I think that you said he scored about 360.
About 360.
And
We didn't kill him. But he was 360.
But he was 360. Getting to see him
There you go.
is enough a lot of times.
You bet.
All right. Well, I'm going to do, I tell you what, Jim, why don't you do on the single reed, explain to us how you use it and do a chirp and then go into a mew.
The Hyperlip single is exactly what the name implies. It has a single reed. It's a very versatile call, easy to control, and I like it because of the control, and I use it with the reed down because I put my lower lip on the reed because I've discovered I have more control that
Pete
way.
and I use it up.
Right.
And we put our upper lip, and you use the pressure from your bottom lip going up.
That's right.
Like that. And I think one of the reasons you like it so much is because it is so sensitive. The way the trough and the reed are designed, if you just barely breathe on it, you're going to get the sound.
And that gives me control. And each one of us has a different thickness of lip. And by moving this rubber band back and forth, we can find where our placement of our lip goes on there to where we can create that high and low sound and gain our control.
All right, hold that up and turn it so they can see the adjustment. You move that rubber band up or down to fit your own individual style.
That's right. And you can get that sound that you want.
All right, let's hear a chirp on that. And a mew.
Sounds good.
Very easy.
Hear a mew.
Real easy to control. And what I like about it is you can go into an estrus call with it.
Longer and drawn out. And remember, that's the sound.
That's the sound, the whiny sound, this sound at the end. And if you're going to go into the hyper sound, this thing has the great control for it.
Sounds great.
Very easy to use.
Fires them up.
Fires them up every time.
Yes, it
We'll
does.
use the double.
Yeah, now the Hyperlips double made the same way. It's just got 2 reeds. It's going to be louder, and it's going to have a different tone to it. And we got onto this by some guys in New Mexico that were using a double reed, and they had tremendous success from long distances hunting in New Mexico using the call. I'm going to do the hyper sound on it for you.
Man,
Lots
it
of
has
volume.
volume.
I'm telling you, very loud. You can also mew on it. Do little
Chirp.
short chirps on it.
Chirps.
It's just got a little bit different tone. And like I think, Pete, didn't you say it earlier that we never know which one they're going to hit?
Yeah, and I think that's what's important about having different calls.
when you're guiding there in Arizona,
You go in and you try different calls, and you may try something for 20 minutes and you don't get a response, and then try something different, and the first one out, he's hitting on it and he's coming in.
right?
Even more than that, a lot of times when you're guiding like that, you'll hit a bull that you make work for 2 or 3 days, and don't you find that you'll go in with a different call that a couple of days before?
You
so
got
they
to
don't have
change
the same
things
sounds?
around. You know, but you can't pattern yourself because they're trying to do that, and you got to watch that kind of thing. And different calls, totally different sounds. Like we talked about the inflections on the same call, everything's different, and it works for you.
I hear you.
Take a lot of calls out there and try to be proficient with each one of them.
Pete, you never know what call they're going to respond to on a certain day.
That's right.
They can be all over one call one day, and the next day they hardly answer. And switching calls can turn the day around for you. And Jim, I know you've run into that a lot of times.
Often.
And another call that's really turned the day around for us, it's powerful and different, it's the Terminator. This is the Terminator system, made up of the Terminator call, the Terminator hose, and the resonator end. The air goes through the call, through the hose, expands, and then constricts. And that's what gives it that bull elk quality.
That deep chest sound.
Yeah,
where
that's
you're
what
getting it.
makes a difference. Now the call just pops off, and you can use your pallet plate calls with the hose. I keep this in my pocket, Want to try the terminator? I just pop the call back on. Now, several features like that call popping on makes it so special, but one of the main ones is this blue terminator reed. This reed will just pop on to the top. The top is already preset. Put that reed, line it up.
It's right in place.
A dimple is going to appear right in the center of the reed, and you know everything is set like you want it.
It's got notches on both sides.
Yep.
Put it right in the same place
So you
every
know
time
right
for
where
you.
it goes. Now,
That reed is made out of a silicone rather than latex.
yeah, we mold the reed from a silicone, and it doesn't rot like latex. You put latex in sunlight, you expose it to a lot of heat, and it's going to deteriorate rapidly on you.
I've used this one for 2 seasons.
2 seasons. How
Same
about
one.
you, Jim?
I used mine all last season and was starting into the seminars after the season was over into the next year, and I was using the same one until a friend came up and ripped it off.
Yeah. Well, keep your friends away from your call. Now, another feature is in the Terminator cap, we've got a piece of foam, and here is another reed that just goes in the bottom of the cap. The foam keeps it in place, and you can keep it right there,
In case you
ready
blow
for
this
when you
reed.
need it. Now, some people been trained over the years stretching latex over the top of the call, and you can still do that. Here's another call that I fixed up with the latex. This is a rubber band, it's a blue rubber band, and this latex just fits right over the top of the call. And you can do that too. It's a lot of trouble, you got to mess with it, and you got to get it just right and tinker with it. But this blue reed, the Terminator reed, is perfect. Just pop it on, line it up, ready to
There
go.
again, that's an option again for
Right.
someone. They've got
That's
a couple
right.
different
I don't know of anybody that's using the latex reeds, but we still put the latex reeds with the call. Now, all you do, your finger is round like your lip, your bottom lip. You take your bottom lip and put it in that hole. How tight you press your lip to the call and how loose you put it is going to determine the tone you're going to get. The tighter your lip, the higher the note. The lower your lip and the looser your lip, the lower the note is going to be. Now, it's not hard at all to learn to use the call. But Jim, I think you talk about people working too hard to use it.
Exactly. I am firmly convinced that this is the easiest call on the market to use. And when I teach seminars, when I teach people how to use this call, I implore to them that if they are using any facial muscles, their cheek muscles, muscles in their mouth and all, that they are working too hard to blow this call. It doesn't take any work.
Good point. Go ahead.
Matter of fact, when I place my lips on that, I use a technique of turning the call into my lip. And what in fact I'm doing similar to what you're doing, but instead of actually pushing my lip up, I'm turning the call into it, which
You're
is closing off the hole.
You're pressing the call into your lip.
Exactly.
Whereas I'm pushing my lip into the hole.
And
Exactly.
then adding some voice to it.
And add my voice, get my call, and when I come off of it, I'm reversing that because I want to open this hole up so the sound of that deep guttural sound will come out the tube.
Right. Well, we're going to go over some techniques and sounds here, but practice is what's going to make a big difference. Somebody fooling with the call, and all of a sudden they're going to do something and go, oh, that's how you get that sound.
That's right. Just playing with it.
Just playing with it.
You get it.
But we're going to start out describing a complete bugle, and we're going to go over that, and you can hear what these sounds sound like and learn to make them, and you'll get well started to making bugles on the call. A complete bugle starts out with a growl, goes into the whistle of the bugle, and then into the chuckle. And to make the growl, what you do is say the word or the sound, you are, I'm going to do the sound with no voice, being voice. Just make a high-pitched sound by putting my lip right up against that reed in that hole and blowing. Add a little voice to it. And that's the growl.
That's the beginning of your call.
Beginning of the bugle. All right, Pete, why don't you do a bugle for us? Whistle on it for us.
You know, there's a couple ways of doing it, Will. One way that I like doing it, if I'm up on a ridge top and I want to get out there, I really want to get some volume in it, you can do kind of an upscale note with this thing, real easy. And it doesn't take a lot of pressure. Very simple. It really reaches out there. You're going to hear some other ridges.
I noticed at the end you added a little voice to add a little lower,
Right.
more guttural sound to
Right,
it.
and you can start that way.
All right. And Jim, at the end of a bugle, typically a complete bugle, we call a complete bugle, ends with chuckle. Do the chuckle for us.
Okay, I use my tongue to block off the air on the hole.
Rather than your lip, you're putting your tongue up against that hole.
That's right. But I've got back pressure. I've got air wanting to come out of my diaphragm, my mouth, but I'm blocking that with my tongue. And I'm pulling the tongue away from it, gets the high notes, then I pull it all the way off, which opens up the hole. And you get just a basic chuckle. And that's going thuh, thuh. And then to get a full chuckle,
just in and out.
In and out.
In and out. All right, so we've talked about the growl at the beginning, going into the whistle, and going into the chuckle. Now I'm going to do one for you, just what I call a complete bugle, and I'm going to do what I call a whistling chuckle at the end. You know, I'm doing similar to you on that chuckle at the end, but I'm putting my lip in the hole and blowing and popping it out. Same thing that you're doing with your lip. In, getting that back pressure there and popping it off.
You can also get that real excited sound in there when you try that. You can come off of it a little bit, but put a lot more into that.
Do a complete bugle
whistling
and show us what yours sounds like.
Really get some
A
excited.
lot more whistle to it.
Right.
now that's a popular sound for you, isn't it?
Yeah, we use it a lot, and you get a lot of responses. It's not really that classic grunt that you're doing, but it sure works.
Do a complete bugle for us. You can start out with the growl, go through the whistle, and go into the chuckle. Big, powerful sound on the terminator. Makes a whole lot of difference.
Very versatile.
And it's not hard to learn to use. I can't stress that enough. All somebody's got to do is learn to put that lip in that hole, and away you go.
And you're talking about that air pressure. Very little air pressure to get started.
That's right. Terminator is versatile. I want to carry this in my pocket at all times. I use my pallet plate call as I'm cow calling and moving through the woods. When I get ready to try it, I just pop it on. The next thing we want to go over is the pallet plate calls, the mouth reed calls, how to use them to make the sounds of a bugle. All right, pallet plate calls.
Pallet plates.
For bugling, I'm going to pull out my Century.
And the ivory.
Jim, you got the Imperial and the Hyper.
I got my baby right here. the
Okay.
Imperial.
This is very similar to learning to use cow talk. You make that S sound, you put the call in your mouth and make sure you can make that noise. And you want to start out low and then go up the scale and then come back down low.
Just like we did with the Terminator.
Right, now, I really like the Century because it's going to make a great young bull squeal. And you can come right back to any cow talk you want. You can learn to do that on any of the pallet plate calls, but this one, the Century, is not going to let you make any big bull screams. It just won't let you go that high, and that's why I'm fond of it, because when I get close into a bull, I can act like a young one who thinks he's hot stuff. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing, you put the collar in your mouth and you add that same voice to it that you used on the Terminator, that UR sound. The versatility of the call is tremendous. You can, hands are free, cow, calf, bull, you make all kind of sounds on it. After I make that UR sound, I quit making it and I start going up the scale into the bugle. To make those chuckles, I'm pressing my tongue up against the reed and bouncing it back off.
A young bull. Young bull sound.
Young bull
This
sound.
one here is more of a medium sound, I think. And you do it the same way, and it'll just sound a little bit deeper. Not as deep as the Imperial, but a little bit deeper.
And you could go higher in the scale
Sure.
too with it too.
Sounds good.
You got a good sound at the end too.
Yeah.
One more difference in this one to that one is
Right.
what can make the difference.
Right. And this here also, like you talked about, you can do the cow call. You know, you can come out, you sit this down, you're ready for your shot. You can stop a bull.
And I'm gonna tell you,
bring
when
him
that
in.
bull's coming in and you want to stop him at the right time, you need this.
You got to have your hands
Gotta have
free,
it.
and this is the perfect way of doing that.
All right,
Got to have it.
go for it, Jim, on the Imperial.
Deeper yet.
Great. Now, I know when a bull starts, we talked about a bull display, and we talked about a bull that is really wanting the cows to think he's the hottest thing around, but he may not be. Somebody else might have all the cows. He's going to do what I call a display bugle. It's got a tremendous amount of rasp to it. Can you do that on that?
Yeah, what we call the lip ball, and I like to do it with the imperial plate. And what he does a lot of times, if he's being hagged a lot by satellite bulls, he does that call a lot because it has a tendency to hold them off. And
he's just about
kind
had
of
it.
bragging. Yeah, I've had it and I'm bragging.
I'm the biggest bull around.
Yeah.
How you making that sound, Jim?
I'm using my lips and I'm vibrating my lips, making a pucker, and then I vibrate as I blow out. And then through the resonating tube, it comes out like that.
Let me hear it one more time.
Sounds
Sometimes that's what'll make him mad enough to come in and challenge.
Yeah, it does. That's when he comes in stiff-legged.
Yeah. All right, Pete, we talked at the very beginning about the hunt and about the glunking that we did to try to let the bull know that there was another bull there. It's a subtle sound. We use it when they're in close.
Yeah, I think it's almost like turkeys. I think when a turkey comes in that final distance, you get the spitting and the drumming. I think that's what elk are doing. It's usually a herding call, and it's something that they're very irritated at, and they're trying to get their cows together, and if they hear that from another bull, they usually turn on to it
It's
quick.
one more sound to let that elk know there really are elk there. He wants to believe you're an elk.
You bet. And I think a lot of people have heard it, and they probably don't even know what it is.
Yeah. So what does that sound like? How do you do it?
How we do it is we just come off of the top of the Terminator hose, and you just got to pop it. And you pop it with the middle of your palm. And it's a really strange sound. But what it's doing, he's kicking it out of the back of his throat. And glunking or glucking, they call it different things. It's a dynamite call at the right time. They will come in hard to it.
Well, bugling is not hard, and practicing is what makes a difference. Learning that the harder you press your tongue, the higher up the scale you're going to go. And then loosening your tongue and adding a little voice to the call is going to give you a lot of different variety. So practicing, trying to see what kind of different sounds you can get is what's going to really add a lot to your bugling.
You bet.
And now I think it's time that we go and listen to the real thing do the bugle. big bull.
Lord, there's some monsters in there.
I'm telling you.
Boy, what a big sound. That one sound like a Terminator.
he could scare you. We nicknamed that bull the Jurassic Bull. And that fella, that was in New Mexico. That's off the Truth One Elk tape. And he missed that bull.
Great sounds. Great sounds.
Had him flustered pretty good. Let's talk about some other hunting situations. For instance, Arizona last year, Pete.
Yeah, we hunted down there, and I think one of the things people need to remember is that cow call. Start off with that cow call.
Right.
Why would you do that, starting off like that?
Well, you don't know how close the bull is. You don't know how far he is. You don't know if he's got other cows with him. You don't know if he's wanting to fight or not. So all bulls want another cow.
You may back him right off with a bugle.
Whether he's a big bull or
he work on it.
Big bull or a satellite bull or whatever. So cow calling a lot of times can get that response. He may respond with a full bugle, maybe just a growl, but he'll let you know he's there. And let's listen to one of those bulls in Arizona that's responding to our cow calls.
Oh man, Pete, that was awesome. He like to knock your hat off. He was so close.
He was close.
And we almost got that bull.
Yes,
Man.
we did.
Another situation you're going to get into is the wind direction. You got to keep up with it. If they smell you, ain't nothing going to happen. And the wind checker is the way to do that. You can't always stay scent free. We use Scent Shield, Jim, and we constantly are keeping in touch with what odors we're coming in contact with, the camp, and keeping our clothes in plastic bags and stuff like that. But it doesn't always work perfectly. So you keep the wind right whenever you can. And wind checker, you can just push that little powder into the air, and you can watch the currents
You can
move
see the
around.
swirls even.
Right.
They'll come back on you
And
sometimes.
just last year in Arizona, we used it constantly.
Yes.
Everywhere we moved, and the wind would start doing something, we'd go around this way.
Keeps you scurrying, doesn't it?
It sure does, but it made a big difference.
Even when you don't think there's a lot of wind, just a slight breeze or thermal current.
That's right.
Can do it.
Another thing you want to do is add as many natural sounds as you can. Roll a rock down a hill. Make sound, break a stick, pick up a stick and snap it. Elk step on things sometimes. They can be as quiet as ever, but they also make noise when they're moving through the
They
woods.
can really be loud.
Yep, they sure can. And rake a tree. A lot of times when a bull is, you're bugling back and forth to a bull, a cow call, he's going to be, I'm the big guy, he's going to be hitting some tree and making noise. You can add those sounds. Pick up a stick, rub it on the tree. Listen to this bull as he does this in Colorado.
Will, did you guys kill that bull?
No. He was in a bad place, and he was hard to get into and hard to get out of.
You didn't get close enough.
Not close enough. We did in the dark. We got real close to him in the dark.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's absolutely imperative that when your bull has his cows, you have to get in as close as you possibly can before you start working him with your calls.
You have to threaten him.
You
have to get right in his area and threaten him.
That's right.
How about cow calls?
You know, it's kind of like human. They have their space, and you got to get them to that space.
Yeah. With a cow call, you want to get as close as you can because you want him to think, oh, I'm fixing to lose a cow, or here comes a new cow, and he's going to come over there to see who that is,
Go pick
or
her
who he's going to pick her up, or get her herded back into the group.
You bet.
And with a bugle, you want to get as close as you can, so you're going to threaten him. Mm-hmm. But this next piece of footage is a perfect example of us bugling when we're a little bit too far away, and all he does is get his girlfriends and leave. just a perfect example of us calling a little bit too early and pressuring that bull, and he just got his little girlfriends, and away he went.
Tough situation.
Yeah. And another situation, we all get up in the morning and we're up the mountain and the elk are trying to go to bed and we're trying to chase them, and inevitably they usually lay down before noon sometime.
Yeah, and I think that's something guys need to watch, because
Need to listen for
you
it.
don't want to jump that bull. And there's a call that they make, we call it a bedding call, and it sounds something like this on the Terminator. Just a moan.
A moan.
Yeah, he's down, and what we generally do with that bull is we leave him alone and come back in the afternoon.
Yeah, because in one case scenario is you can end up pestering him too hard, and he's going to get up and he won't be there. But if you come back in the afternoon, it'll be there.
A lot of times he's still there.
But now Jim takes another course sometimes, not every time, but if he's kind of playing with you a little bit, Jim, you said you do what?
I've had them do a full bugle, laying flat on their belly, and not bother to get up. So what I like to do is, if I can get in as close as I possibly can without being seen, and then I'll pester him. I'll mimic him back and forth. And usually, a lot of times, he'll get up because he's a little teed and he'll start wandering down towards you. Not coming in real hard and aggressive, but he just wanders down there and gives you your shot.
So you may hear this what sounds like a bull has gone to bed at a low moan, and then you kind of go back at him and he comes back at you a little harder, and you go, I'll pester him.
I'll move in to where I can see him if I can, but as close as I can without busting him out of there.
But if he's determined to stay bedded, you back off and come back in the afternoon.
If he'll give you a sign, because he'll stop talking to you. You may call him a couple times and he won't answer, then it's time to back out.
I see. Two different ways to hunt a bedded bull.
You bet.
We've enjoyed sharing these different calls with you. Remember that elk are the best teachers. Spending time in the woods, listening to elk and listening to the bull's response is going to be the best lessons that you can ever get. If you want to refer to some real hunting situations, you might want to look at the Truth series by Primos on elk hunting. These tapes we've worked hard to put together, and we hope that it really shows the spirit of the hunt and how much it means to all of us. We hope to see you soon hunting elk, and remember, we make the calls for the woods.
This video has been brought to you by Hayes Outdoors, makers of Mossy Oak Camouflage, America's most effective concealment system. And Companions, the only casual clothing natural enough to wear the Mossy Oak logo. PSE, the best archery equipment. Primos hunting calls and accessories for the woods.